Good evening, YouTube. It's me, Tiffany. I'm back. I want to take a minute to apologize. It took me a minute to figure out what I wanted to review next. I have so many books that I read that it took me a second to really determine. And I wanted to get a feel for exactly how I'll be going forward. So today's review is basically going to be what you'll see for the rest of my reviews. It's going to be in-depth and it's going to be full of spoilers. So the last couple of reviews didn't have any spoilers because I really just wanted people to go out and read the book. But these reviews that will be coming up from this point onward will be for people who've read the book, or if you like what I'm saying, you'll go out and read it. I will be giving enough detail that you could be captivated and want to know what happens, or if you just like what I'm saying. So that's that. So I did decide on a book to review, and I decided to just jump right in with my favorite series, or currently it's my favorite. The author is still writing it, and there's about, I want to say 8-9 books in the series right now, but there are still more to come. So the name of the series is called the Wicked Lovers series. It's by Shayla Black, and this week's book, it's the first in the series. It's called Wicked Ties. So Shayla Black, honestly, if you guys are into erotica, you're doing yourself a huge disservice. She writes under 2 pen names, Shayla Black and Shelley Bradley. I'm currently reading at least 3 series that she either writes herself or co-writes on under the name Shayla Black. I haven't read anything by Shelley Bradley, but I hear really good things. She's got series and standalone novels. I'm trying to get myself to purchase or pick up a couple of her standalones so I can see how those go. I'm not much of a standalone novel girl. I really do love the texture and the content of a series. So we'll see. I have so many books that I haven't even read yet that I'm going to try and get into standalones, but right now it's not a huge priority. But anyhow, back to this series. Wicked Ties is the first book. It's in the Wicked Lovers series. And I absolutely adore this series. It's probably my favorite. I go back to it so often. This is a pretty intact copy. I don't really read the physical book. I will read it on my Kindle. But I love this series. It's so great. And we'll get into exactly why. So right off the bat, it's an erotic thriller. Which took me a little bit by surprise because I'm really more of a romance kind of girl, or at least I thought I was a romance kind of girl. But of course, romances get boring. But it would be considered what's an erotic thriller. We have the 2 main characters, which are Jack and Morgan. So Morgan is a nighttime talk show host. She hosts a TV show called Turn Me On, which basically deals with all things relationship-wise, including sex. So she's already gotten through her first season and it's done well. So she's moving into her second season and she's gearing up for the production of that. And she's doing some research and learning things about the topics that she's going to cover. And the first topic that she's going to deal with for that season is the topic of the BDSM community. So she, after a little bit of research and after a little bit of rooting around, she finds a guy named Master Jack who is willing to sit down with her and have a conversation and basically teach her the ins and outs of BDSM and how that goes. She agrees after having a tentative conversation with him online, and she agrees to come down to where he lives and visit with him and see what he has to say and see what it's all about so that she can sound knowledgeable for her talk show. The problem is that she's not aware that Master Jack has an ulterior motive. Jack is not just willing to help Morgan because he wants the world to know all about BDSM and be fully and correctly informed. He has an agenda, and it's a revenge plot against her brother, Brandon. He's technically her half-brother, and there's a whole sordid story about how he's her half-brother. But for now, we'll just get into the fact that Jack thinks Brandon is Morgan's fiance because Morgan has a stalker who is trying to kill her. She's scared, so she runs away from her home, which is in LA, to Texas to visit her brother. And then in the course of that, she decides to go visit with Jack to have this interview. She's been getting nasty letters. Somebody's been at her house. They've defiled her bed. So that's when she ran. And the stalker has followed her to Texas to her brother. And then upon her meeting with Jack out in a public place, the stalker follows her there and begins to shoot at her. Now, Jack, although right now, and at this point in the book, you think he's kind of a jackass and he's kind of sleazy, he's actually a pretty decent guy because he's in the personal protection racket. Well, let me not say racket because that sounds like he's in the mob. He's in the he's in the personal protection business. He's a bodyguard and he's really good at his job. And he decides that Morgan, as small and as fey and as beautiful as she is not going to last 5 minutes with some guy who's shooting at her in public. So he decides to take her under his wing, and it's kind of perfect for his revenge plot. He gets to protect her and he gets to isolate her with him. And so they survive getting shot at. And this is not just any old shooter. This person has like a high-powered rifle and is pointing it right at them. So they're running through New Orleans, where things get a little bit dicey. But he runs into a strip club where he knows the proprietor. And in that setting, he helps Morgan find a disguise where they can leave safely without anyone spotting them. Upon finding the disguise, they leave. And it's at this point, while they're in the midst of that he starts pressing his advantage for taking his revenge on Brandon. Now, Brandon is not actually in the movie. I'm sorry. Ooh. Do you see what I say? In the movie? Because honestly, this book really should be in a movie. They're always taking books and turning them into movies. This should definitely be one of them. It would definitely be a dirty movie. But hey, this totally should be made into a movie. I don't understand why it's not. Somebody hasn't picked it up yet. I would die if I heard about it. But nonetheless, he starts pressing his advantage to get his revenge on Brandon because he still thinks that Morgan is Brandon's fiance. And he kind of opens her up because while Morgan is talk show host, she's pretending to have a fiance, she's got a stalker, she's also very sexually repressed, and Jack can sense that. She is hiding her true desires. She's uncomfortable with what she really likes, and there's a reason behind that. And he kind of presses it, and she basically calls him and she's like, look, you're being a dick, leave me alone. But he won't let up. And the fact is, he's right. She's attracted to him. She likes what he's offering in terms of the BDSM community. And she likes to play it off, and she likes to say things like, well, I'm not weak, and I don't want some man to dominate me and walk all over me. And he's like, you don't understand at all. And you are so scared that you won't let me teach you or show you. But he continues to back her into a corner over and over and over again. And so finally, she cracks. And she cracks when he gets her alone. He takes her from the strip club safely to his little, I don't even want to call it a cabin, it's a shack in a swamp where he protects her. But this is where he goes to keep people safe because it's very difficult for somebody who's trying to kill you to find you in a swamp. But it's just him and her. And there's nothing but space and opportunity for him to teach her everything that she would want to know and for him to exact his revenge on Brandon. And so he pushes and pushes and seduces, and he's crude and he uses crass language, and it irritates her because she really loves it. Like, I know that there are some women who are like, oh, I don't like a guy who talks dirty, and I don't like someone who says, really crass sexual things to me. And then there are women who love it. She's one of those women who actually loves it, but she's hiding it and she's repressing it. So he keeps pushing at that button until she cracks, and he feels like, I finally got my revenge on Brandon. And he does something that's kind of low, in my opinion. He videotapes them. They have sex, and then he videotapes them, and he emails it to Brandon. And he feels like he's gotten his revenge, except he still wants her badly. And she knows nothing about this revenge plot, so she's kind of like disgusted at the fact that she gave in to him so easily. And they continue to have this back and forth the entire time about what she truly desires. and she's a little pissy because she's like, well, what are you doing about finding this guy who's trying to kill me? Or are you just more concerned with getting in between my legs? And he's like, look, I'm a professional, so I'm taking care of my business outside of here. But in the meantime, while I've got you here, until we figure out who it is, why are you running around in circles on this subject of what you like sexually? And he keeps pressing her, and he keeps pressing her. And there are a slew of colorful characters who come to visit him. One being his grandfather, who I absolutely adored. Like, his grandfather has a very small part in the book, but he's awesome. He's this like spry old Cajun man who comes and he brings them food, and then he kind of sweet talks Morgan for like 2.5 seconds, and she thinks he's like this old doddering kind man. But that's actually not the case. He's actually pretty spry, and Jack warns her, look, don't be fooled because he's old. He's very sharp. And she learns that when he leaves because he was supposed to bring her decent clothes. Instead, he brought her nothing but lingerie because he is trying to convince his grandson that he's going to get married soon. And apparently his grandfather thinks that the woman that he's going to marry is Morgan. So they have that. It's a lot of nuances to this story, a lot of back end information that doesn't come out to the very end. And like I said, a very interesting slew of characters. We have Alyssa, who is the proprietor of the strip club. We have Deke, who is Jack's partner, and he's kind of hot himself. We have Brandon, who is Morgan's brother, half brother. We have Reggie, who is Morgan's assistant. It's just a lot going on and a lot of characters that you want to get to know and find out what, because at the end of the day, as I said, since it is a thriller, you still want to know who is trying to kill this girl and why, because it doesn't seem like there's any rational idea. Like, in his head, Jack is trying to figure out, is it a crazy fan? Is it someone that you used to be with and then you're not anymore? It's very interesting to see how they go about finding out who's actually trying to attack her and kill her. At the end of the day, the book, I don't want to ruin all of it, but they do get down to some bare minimum. Jack makes Morgan realize what it is that she desires, and that what she desires is not wrong. It's not dirty, it's not filthy, and it doesn't make her depraved, because someone along the way, a number of someones, has made her feel that what she desires, which is to have a man dominate her and to have a man take control, is filthy, and it makes her a bad person. So he kind of opens her up and lets her see that it doesn't make you a bad person to want these things. You are just fine the way you are. And they stumble through trying to understand each other. Now, I love this book. I love this entire series. And the series picks up with another character from the first book. So this book is about Jack and Morgan. And the second book that I will be reviewing next week is going to be about Deke, who is Jack's business partner. Now, there's a lot of juicy things that happen in book one concerning Deke. Deke, of course, he comes out to visit, and he's hot. And he kind of takes a liking to Morgan. And some things happen. Like I said, the book itself is really great. It's amazingly written. If it wasn't written so well, I probably would not have fell in love with it the way I did, because I'm not a big action fan, but because the book was so great, I just continued reading. It just kept me captivated. I wanted to know what happened with who was trying to kill her. I wanted to know why she felt so negatively about the things that she desires sexually. I wanted to know what happened with Jack and Brandon to make him want to seek revenge this kind of way. I wanted to know what happened with Jack and his first wife and why he's so closed off. There's a lot of things that go on that you want to know, and it keeps you guessing. It keeps you on your toes. This book was epic. It was well written. It was well crafted. It was sexy. It was exciting. It was like, right now, like I said, this is my favorite series, and I always find myself going back to it. there are so many things that I can continue to say about this book, but I'll just leave it at that. You guys should definitely pick it up. And the thing about it is that it's a really great read for not just women, for men. I know most guys out there, if you're watching, you'll think, oh, it's an erotic book, so that's really for a woman. But it's really a great action story, which is why I said it should totally be turned into a movie. It's so good. It should totally be turned into a movie. This would make a perfect movie. You have some very interesting characters to find out what happens with them. Actually, I would honestly be lying. It actually shouldn't be turned into a movie. I'm totally lying right now. Let me backtrack and I strike everything I just said. It should not be a movie. It should be a TV show, because once I get into the other reviews, you'll see that it's so much and so many characters. It should totally be a TV show. HBO, Showtime, Stars, Cinemax, somebody out there, one of you networks, reach out to this author, Shayla Black, and find out if she would like to option her series, Wicked Lovers, into a TV show. You would make my day, my life, my year, my millennium if you did that. This show would be epic. So, again, Wicked Ties is the first book in the series. We will be picking up next week with the second book in the series. If you do not or have not read it, take the time out to go read this book. I promise you will not be disappointed. So with that being said, I'm going to sign off. You guys have a great one, and I will be back next week with a new review.